The state of Maine is looking to regulate backyard chickens, and the bill was proposed as a way to protect a person's right in Maine to own chickens in cities that may have banned chicken ownership. It was proposed as a way to protect your right to own chickens in Maine. However, there are details in the bill that have many people concerned. I know this for sure because I was just in Maine and went to a farm store and talked to people. And, of the handful of folks that were willing to go on camera, and I'm going to show you that video in a second, only one of them thought this was a good idea. And I have a chicken owner who is going to come on the show in about 2 minutes and tell you why people are concerned. And I'm so grateful he was willing to do this because I'm a total stranger who's just ran into his friend at the feed store and he was still willing to come on the show. So Sam Bessey will be here in a second, but you're looking at an act to allow the keeping of chickens on private residential property. And what it says at the beginning is the good part. A county or municipality may not adopt a regulation or ordinance that prohibits a person from raising chickens on private residential land. So that's the good part for the people who support it. I'm not going to take a stance on it yet, but I was just saying for the people who support it, that's like the thing that everybody likes, that who likes the bill. They agree on that part. They're glad that the bill says a county or municipality cannot ban you from having chickens. But the rest of it goes on to say, okay, it limits you at 36 chickens, so you can't have more. It also tells you that you have to have a coop that is at least 15 feet from a property line, is enclosed with predator-proof mesh. You have to have at least 4 square feet of inside space for your chicken and 10 square feet of secure outside space for your chickens. And then they can't become a nuisance. So essentially, the critics of the bill are like, wait a second, why didn't you just stop at you have to let people raise chickens? Why all these extra regulations about the coop and everything else? And the critics say it gives the government too much control, proposed as freedom, but it may have a good intent, but has a bad potential outcome for all the regulations that are included in the bill. All right, before we get into that, you're a chicken owner. You spend a lot of time out with your chickens. You like to have a great glass of wine with this, okay? I see people post on Instagram all the time, chicken therapy. They have a great glass of wine. They're just sitting with their chickens. If you need a better glass of wine, a much better glass of wine than what you're drinking right now, you should join my wine club, AllisonWinePromo.com. It pairs very well with Rhode Island Reds, Wyandottes. What else do I have? Naked necks. People always think my naked necks just got into a really bad fight with each other and pecked all their feathers off their necks, but actually they just don't have feathers on their neck. So you like chickens, or maybe you like to watch videos about chickens, get your AllisonWinePromo.com. All of these wines are selected for what I like, which is very clean products. They use natural fermentation techniques. Some of these vineyards have been in business for 200 years growing grapes and using the same winemaking techniques that their great-great-great-grandparents used. In some cases, the vineyards are between 6,000 and 9,000 feet in elevation. They don't put a bunch of the crap that's in grocery store wines in these wines. So there's some really clean wines. There are good wines. If you're not a wine drinker, sign up for the club. You'll get 6 bottles every 3 months, and you'll always have a gift to give someone. Or maybe you're just trying to bribe the Maine legislature, and you can bring your wine to the Capitol so that the folks voting on the chicken bill will vote in your direction. Okay, AllisonWinePromo.com. With that, I'm going to bring in Sam Bessey, who is my guest today. And he has chickens in Maine, in Belgrade, Maine. So, Sam, first off, thank you for being here. Why don't we just start with the bill? Okay, so I'm going to go back to it. And was I correct to say that most people who like the bill like the beginning part about how it says, hey, you should have the right to raise chickens in Maine? Is that true? That the people who like this bill mostly agree on that point?
I think most people that like the bill, that's probably the only thing that they like about it. I would think.
Okay. And why? I mean, tell me a little bit about Maine. Like, are people not allowed to raise chickens in certain areas, and has that been a point of tension for Mainers?
Well, I think the whole point of the bill was to allow. It was created to allow people in like some of the southern towns and cities to be able to own chickens, where the town has imposed ordinances that they're not allowed to keep chickens at all. So that was like the intent of the bill, I believe. But then they put in the coop requirements, and not a whole lot of people like being told what they can have for like coop requirements for places that aren't in like the southern areas of Maine, like in rural areas. And
Well,
I
let me
think
ask
that
you
a lot of
this.
people were just worried that the bill was going to affect those people in rural areas as well, which
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
believe that it will.
So, okay, yeah. So, question about that because the bill talks about private residential land. So, I'm guessing what that means is that if you're zoned agricultural, you aren't going to fall under the limitations of this bill. Is that right?
I I'm not 100% sure. I mean, if it's residential or agricultural, uh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, because that's what it says. It says in the bill that it can't prohibit a person from raising chickens on private residential land. And it says that number of times a person raising chickens on private residential land may not keep more than 36 chickens. So my guess is that they're talking about private residential land specifically.
Nobody really wants the state government to come and tell you how many chickens that you can or cannot have. Um, I just I think the whole point of the bill was to try to let those people that weren't allowed to have chickens at all because their town said so was to allow them to have them.
Right.
And in I know that you have the bill that says the 36. If you go on, I think I sent you the link for on that the Facebook for the prior the one that came up with the bill.
Yeah.
He had posted a redacted version that says that changed a lot of the verbiage in the bill that's on
Mhm.
the state website right now. Um, Basically saying that you, no matter what, in whatever town, you're allowed to have 12 chickens. Like you're allowed to have, like they're not going to restrict you to anything less than 12.
Okay. One thing that I'll play this real fast, but one thing that she said here, hopefully you're gonna be able to hear her this time. One thing she says later in this video, this is one of your state representatives, is that even though the sponsor of the bill has amended it, taking out some of that language that nobody liked, who opposes the bill, the people that didn't like it, those folks, the 36 chicken limit or the coop size and stuff. She's saying that the Republicans in Maine have no control. And so if you put forward a bad bill,
Yeah,
even
it's
if
gonna.
you amend it,
Yeah,
you're not guaranteed that the amended version is what's going to pass. You've now put forward legislation that in its original form could get passed by the legislature, and if you're in the minority, you cannot guarantee that the version of it you like is the one that everyone's going to vote on. So she said that
I
you'd
would
be
hope that
controlled.
what she's, yeah, if that's the case, then I really hope that it doesn't pass. I mean, I don't. It shouldn't have been put forward to begin with until it had been like edited. That's what I.
Well, that's what I've seen a lot of people say that, like, why did you strike the language if you didn't realize this was going to be something that people weren't going to
Yeah.
like? Why did you do a little more research? All right, listen to what she has to say. Let me know if you can't hear it.
And if you don't like an ordinance or a guideline that your municipality or your town has passed, then change who's in charge of your town. Do the work, get different folks elected. If you cannot change it and that's a non-starter for you, I still would prefer, I would prefer to move to a different municipality that allowed chickens before the state had any say over whether I'm allowed to own chickens or not. That's how strongly I feel about the state having no part in this.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that would be what I guess the people who oppose it would say, hey, instead of the state saying we're going to force cities to let you have chickens, why not just have people in local government get involved and change their government or move instead of having statewide regulations that make
Affects
it
the
more
whole
difficult
state.
for you to get
Yeah.
away. This is a video I put together of people that I just randomly ran into in Winthrop, Maine, outside the farm store there. And I didn't pick and choose people based on their opinions. I had no idea what they were going to say when I started recording. And like I said, I mean, it was like 5% liked it, and the rest did not like the idea of the state having really any say in, your coop requirements, the number of chickens you can have. But I'm going to bring up devil's advocate in a second, Sam. So let's just watch
Yeah,
this first.
I am curious. I guess I haven't watched the video, so I haven't met anybody yet that's thought that it's a good idea.
Oh yeah, I got one lady, which I was glad to hear what she had to say, just as an alternative perspective. But here you go. Oh wait, let me start at the beginning. Okay. We're gonna find out what people actually think about the Maine chicken bill. So I'm at the Paris Farmers Union in Winthrop, Maine, and here's what I found. Should the government have a say in how you raise your backyard chickens?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
I just think what you do on your own property is your own business.
Kelly?
I feel the same way. As long as you live within a certain distance of other people and you have the space to give them a quality life for chickens, then I think that should be up to the landowner.
I think that it's probably not a bad idea to have some regulations with the bird flu and everything else that's going around. I think it's not a bad idea to have some regulation on that.
Critics of the bill say it gives the government too much control over how you can have your backyard chickens.
I think it's private property, if I have my chickens, as long as it's not animal abuse, I mean, I could even butcher my own chickens, but I feel it's wrong for them just to come in and check on my property to see if my chickens are up to par.
I think it's crazy. I think they need to mind the business. There's more things to be concerned about than what I raise for chickens.
Does it surprise you the Maine legislature would pass something like this?
No, not at all.
Or propose something like this?
No.
Now, what if I told you it's a Republican-sponsored bill?
It wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
No.
It's crazy. Yeah. You can't tell the difference between the parties anymore, I don't think.
I don't think some of these people have ever raised chickens. So apparently they're not well educated on how chickens are raised. If they're concerned about how chickens are raised, maybe they should go check out some of these commercial farms and see how chickens are treated. That would be something more concerning for me, because the way chickens are raised commercially is inhumane.
What bothers you the most about the bill?
It's really none of their business what I do in my backyard.
What would be the reason you think that the government should regulate it? Like, what would be your concern if they didn't go forward with it?
I think that people don't keep an eye on whether their chickens are healthy necessarily, and they can infect a lot of other chickens and other birds if not cared for correctly. They have no business telling people how to keep chickens. I think they have bigger fish to fry. They really need to focus more on more important things like healthcare and not telling people how to raise their chickens. Everybody has a different way of raising chickens. Mine are free range.
Okay, so you heard it. You heard her there. The one lady who thought, I don't think it's such a bad idea to have some regulation. I've heard from some of my supporters, one in particular, my locals community, who was like, well, look, if you're gonna force municipalities to let people who live in residential areas where you might only have like a small lot, you're living right next to each other, you're not out in the middle of nowhere, then for the safety of everybody, you need to have some regulation. Because what if somebody's going to have, 40 chickens on, in an apartment or something? You know what I mean? I'm saying not an apartment.
I think that's probably why the town came up with the ordinances to begin with. I would assume is that there was people in like apartment complexes that were keeping chickens in their cupboards. Like, I don't know. That's not really sanitary, I don't think. You probably ought to have some kind of a lot size to be able to keep chickens. You need somewhere to put them. They can't just live in a cupboard. But
so what do you think about that? Yeah, because that's like that lady said, hey, not everybody keeps a good eye on their chickens, and so it's better for the government to keep an eye on it. If you're gonna,
I don't agree with that. I mean, I guess I think it's disgusting if someone would want to keep chickens in a cupboard, but I guess it's also the government shouldn't tell them that they can't. I mean, I guess if they want to, but
okay. Well, let's.
It's kind of a weird point. It's kind of a weird point. Like, where do you draw the line? I guess.
Well, I think, in my opinion, I liked what is it? Representative is it Libby? Is that her name?
Yep.
Yeah, Laurel Libby. Okay, yeah. I thought her focus on letting the local government be the center of attention makes sense to me, because the second that the state starts regulating something, it doesn't give you a whole lot of opportunity to you're gonna have to move out of Maine. In other words, if they start, if they you don't have to just move out of a town to some other part of Maine. You're gonna have to move out of Maine. And so, while she says like she understands the intent, and she can understand it was like it was intended to be something positive, that ultimately the result is that you're increasing the power of the state of Maine over your ability to raise chickens. And that's not something they're probably going to give back. So I just can see her point. Now I can also see the point of the person who's like, well, if you're going to force people to allow, you're going to force a town to allow chickens. Now you're like, well, then, we're going to have to regulate. Though, when I showed the struck bill, the bill that had the lines crossed through it, she made the point, the lady who sponsored it made the point that there's code enforcement already. There's animal welfare regulations already. So maybe you don't need that. I don't know. It just seems very jumbled. Like I can see, I can totally understand why, if you're living in like a major urban area, why you might say, I'm not sure. But then again, I'll be honest with you. I've been to some towns in other countries that are like very concentrated, and there's chickens everywhere. There's chickens everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're fine. You know what I mean? Like their country does not have the diseases that we do. So I also sit back and go, well, what's everybody so afraid of? I mean, don't you think the neighbors will work it out with each other? I don't know. I guess I don't know. I ask you, Sam, like, what do you think about that? I mean, if someone makes the statement that, hey, if you're going to force a municipality to let people have chickens, then you're going to have some kind of regulation, because they're in they're in a concentrated area, and it's for the safety and the health of the people and the animals. What do you think about that?
I mean, I guess in that way, I guess it makes sense, but yeah, it does make sense in that way. You have to have some form of land. You can't just have them in your apartment, I don't think.
Well, I don't think it would be in your apartment, because it's private residential land. So it would be like you'd have to own it. It couldn't be, it couldn't be that. But you might be someone who only has a tiny little space in Portland, and then maybe just people don't want to have chickens roaming around. Though, like I said, I've been to plenty of different countries where like chickens and goats, honestly, goats and chickens were just everywhere. And it just was the way it was. Nobody was freaking out about it. Okay. Before we go any farther, don't forget to get your greenpasture.org, promo code Allison. We take this cod liver butter oil blend every day. It significantly helped me with cavities and dental health. 12 years ago, I used to get cavities all the time. This is the product, okay? Fermented cod liver oil, concentrated butter oil blend. They've got a lot of great stuff on the website if you're into like natural health, but this is the product we are just, I've been in love with this for over a decade, and we are committed to taking every day. The kids take it. It's got a bunch of great omega-3s, but the real deal is like it's got A, D, and K because of the two products. Like if you just take a fish oil without the butter oil, Dr. Weston Price, who this was sort of based from his understanding of dental health, he was dentist turn of the century. A lot of his patients were getting cavities, eating processed foods. And he studied indigenous cultures around the world, why they had no dentist, but they also had no cavities. They weren't going to getting, their cleanings every 6 months, but they didn't have cavities. And really it came down to nutrition for him. And the synergistic vitamins of A, D, and K work together. So they work together in a way that if you only took one or the other, butter oil or cod liver oil, you wouldn't get the same benefits. But if you take both together, they work so that you have the best absorption and bioavailability. It's a great product, not just for your teeth, but I'm telling you, if you have dental health issues, I can't recommend this more highly. I take about a tablespoon a day. Sam's out of here. I don't know what just happened to him. I guess I will continue the show by myself until he comes back. Okay, so let me go back over to some questions, and I'm going to go back to my locals page with some questions over here, AllisonMorrow.locals.com. I'll take Sam out until he comes back. And don't forget, you can send me mail, P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida, 34432. Send me some mail. Love to hear from everybody. Thank you so much for those who have sent financial support, books, cards of encouragement, all kinds of stuff, presents for the producers. We love getting the mail. It's awesome. So thank you to everybody who does that. Sam's back. He probably just had a chicken try to attack him. So we're going to welcome him back. He's still alive.